Tucker Carlson did a media piece on Fox News explaining why the Republican Glenn Youngkin won the Virginia governorship due largely to the fact that he put critical race theory being taught in Virginia public schools front and center in his campaign. First, I'll let you watch for yourself, and then I'll come back and break down what critical race theory is, whether or not it's actually being taught in Virginia public schools, and finally, why the claim that critical race theory is being taught in public schools is an immensely effective strategy for Republican politicians.
What's interesting, though, is that he didn't run on tax cuts. I think that was a feature of his platform, but he ran on what we are told are the divisive social issues, critical race theory, what our kids are taught. I mean, he went right to the things that people talk about on social media, and he won on that. What does that tell you?
Well, it tells you one thing, and that is that there's an argument about this whole question of critical race theory in this particular political race. And on one side, and you're hearing it, I heard it all day today, I saw it everywhere. Critical race is not taught in Virginia schools. Critical race theory is not taught in Virginia schools. The AP and the NBC are saying it. It's being said everywhere on the left. In fact, however, there is ample evidence that critical race theory very much influences and is injected into what is being taught in those schools. And these parents knew that. They came to know it. It may have had something to do with the kids being at home during the pandemic and the kids getting the parents getting a closer look at what their kids were learning. But that was out there, and the parents were right, and Youngkin was right, and the left and Terry McAuliffe and the rest of them were wrong on the facts. And as a result, people weren't going to vote for somebody who didn't think there was a problem. Exactly. Youngkin did. So that's where that comes out. And of course, you have people on the left and some, chin pullers saying, well, it was the Republicans who injected race into this election. Baloney. Yeah. The critical race theory itself injects race into the lives of our school children. It should never have any influence, let alone being taught. Now people say, you could say technically, Tucker, it's not being taught in the sense that, volumes have been written on critical race theory, and it's not been handed out as a textbook. But its influence and its tenets are in those schools.
All right, the first matter we need to address before I get into serious critique is that Brett Hume just called Bologna. He said the whole word, didn't he? Like a Tribe Called Quest. He said the whole word every time. I don't know why that was so funny to me. So he called Bologna on the fact that, critical race theory isn't being taught in public schools. Well, the fact of the matter, it isn't, right? I'm gonna get into what it is and whether it's being taught at the same time, because they kind of go hand in hand. It's literally like undergraduate, graduate level material. So there's no way it's being taught in public schools, right? Now, what it is, in a nutshell, is the view that the most significant or even the primary lens through which you can view social interaction in the United States is through the lens of race and racial oppression, right? Whether you agree or not with that, that's definitely not being taught in public schools. And that premise of critical race theory is back through historical facts of discrimination of people of color throughout history, down from slavery to Jim Crow to redlining to, African American soldiers not getting a GI Bill, from the federal government making it acceptable that African Americans could be charged double for buying homes as property, them not qualifying for loans based on arbitrary discriminations and things like that, right? So my main critique of critical race theory is the fact that some proponents of it who are more extreme view it as, like I said, the most significant or the primary lens through which you can view social interaction in society. And that may or may not be the case in my mind, because there's a lot of other lenses that you could view interactions through, such as, class analysis along with race analysis, general cultural analysis. But all of that aside, the main point is that this material is too advanced for even high school level students. And basically, the right wing has made teaching actual history, teaching actual facts about what happened in regards to race in the United States. They have conflated that with critical race theory. And those things are not equivalent, right? There are historical facts. For example, the Chinese were largely discriminated against, used for their labor, and then the Chinese Exclusion Act was passed in the, late 1800s. Go further back, the country was literally founded on the genocide of Native Americans, right? These are facts. And to conflate those facts with the fact that critical race theory is the idea that you can look at all interaction in the United States, past and present, through the lens of race, is dishonest at the very least, and pragmatic, I would say. Because again, it is the case that talking about critical race theory in education was an effective means for this person not to win small potatoes election like Dogcatcher. He won the Virginia governorship, as Tucker Carlson mentioned, not talking about bread and butter Republican issues like tax cuts or whatever, right? He was talking about something that doesn't actually even happen. And the wildest thing about this is that these conservative parents are ticked off because they've been watching conservative media talk about critical race theory over and over again, while, as I'm about to show you, Tucker Carlson himself admits in this next clip he has no idea what critical race theory even is.
I've never figured out what critical race theory is, to be totally honest, after a year of talking about it. They're teaching that some races are morally superior to others, that some are inherently sinful and some are inherently saintly, and that's immoral to teach that because it's wrong. That would be my view.
Well,
and I think most voters' view.
What's also wrong about it, Tucker, is that it rests on this idea that racism and racial discrimination permeates the experience of citizens in America, that we are inherently and almost incurably racist, and that it influences everything, and that it sees the world through that prism. It's misguided, to say the very least, and people have had enough of it. No doubt about it in my mind.
That's for sure, finally. Britt Hume, great to see you tonight. Thank you.
So first, Tucker Carlson starts out with a blanket admission that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And he thinks that makes him look good, which is an interesting view into the mind of Tucker Carlson. But then he basically goes on to say, basically they're teaching that the white man is the devil in social studies class, which is laughable. The only legitimate thing said in that last clip, I think Britt Hume might have stumbled on something accurate, probably by accident. He said that critical race theory, a main tenet is that, racism permeates our society. And I would characterize that as a pretty accurate, unnuanced, simple, but accurate description of what critical race theory actually represents, right? Where he goes kind of off the rails when he talks about how people are inherently racist and incurably racist, and that's completely inaccurate. Like, one of the main tenets of critical race theory, one of the main lines of thought that comes out of it is that systems can be racist without the people in those systems being racist. And that, counterintuitive to somebody who's never heard it before. But if a system started off as racist, with racist people, with racist intentions, and then that system has not evolved or been, reformed or changed significantly, it stands to reason that that system can still be racist, right? Now, regardless of how you can critique critical race theory, is it the dominant lens through which you should view social interactions in society? Was it more so in the past than it is now? Is it still important now, just as important now, more important now? All of that is a side point, because again, this is not being taught in public schools. But it's astounding. In conclusion, it's astounding that, again, Tucker Carlson says he has been talking about this for a year on Fox News, probably like every other day. And it has gotten to the point where it is an electoral issue for a position as important as the governorship of a state. And we are talking about something that has not even occurred. So yeah, that's the end of this story. If you like what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing more videos on politics and culture. And I will see you next time.